disappointing, and you go through a gamut of emotions. Spoke with the staff not too long ago, and just, it's really, really hard when you fall far short of your goals, and everyone, starting with the players to the coaching staff to the entire staff, invest everything into the season and come up short. There's, like I said, we're just disappointed, frustrated for them, frustrated for our fans, frustrated for Steve, frustrated, for Kahai. But we own it. There's no excuses. The goal is to be the last team standing in June, and obviously we're 2 wins and you gotta get 16. So there's a lot of work to be done. Having said that, when we sat here last year at this time, we talked about honoring and respecting the regular season. We did that. When you look at Paul played 74 games, James played 72, Kahai played 68. We won 51 games, we won the division, we had home court advantage. For 2.5 months, we played like the best team in the league. We were 26-5. Then for the ensuing, next 6 weeks, we were a 500 team. So we're a blend of both teams, and we have to figure out how we can sustain that 26-5 marker. And obviously the biggest thing for us, it's been 4 years in a row that we haven't been able to have our best players and best team on the court in April, let alone the ensuing months. It's disappointing, yet the regular season, in terms of if you're a believer in that the process determines the results, there were some good indicators there, and yet we're not naive to think that, hey, we just run it back and we'll be all good. That's not how we look at team building. We look at this year as a lost opportunity, but it's our job to be able to create a better opportunity for next season, and we're optimistic that we'll be able to do so. But like I said, I feel the pain, this past couple days, just talking to fans, and I understand the skepticism of, hey, just this is another year where you haven't had the group, but I would guard against the cynicism, because just because it's happened doesn't mean it's always going to happen next year. There's no guarantees either way, but we're optimistic that we can put together a team that's going to be a whole lot better than the group that we just finished with.
Lauren, you mentioned that phrase, run it back. Does that mean you guys are looking to make changes? You're hoping to do things to improve the team? What are those steps? What does that look like?
Yeah, look, you're always looking to improve the team. Number one, we'd like to be able to, bring back, retain Paul and James. We have a couple of the players that have player options where the ball's in their court. Paul has a player option as well. And then I thought last year we probably had too many guys where it made it a little bit confusing, in terms of this year maybe we were short a couple guys of good, complementary, reliable players that fit. Now, part of it was a byproduct of when we traded for James, all our wings went out the door. And like, in order to get, you have to give. But I think there's some things roster-wise that we tried to address during the trade deadline that we weren't able to get done, and that we're going to need to address in the off season.
Is Russ one of those too many players?
Who?
Russ?
No. This isn't about any individual. I think it's more so about how can we add to the group and to get better complementary fits. You study the league and where it's going. We invested a couple years ago in having a ton of wings because it gives you great versatility. I think we probably were, at least another wing short. Obviously, size, length, athleticism are important things, and you'd love to be able to add some youth to the group. Now, every team has a wish list. You don't just get to go shopping at the only place and the other 29 teams get shut out. So there's competition for these talented players, but I think we have a lot to sell. The hardest thing to get in team building is to get elite players. Once again, Kahai and Paul were all-stars. James, had a very, very good year, and what we've asked him to do, he's done at a very high level as an orchestrator, and to create easier opportunities for Kahai and PG and to lighten their load, and I think he definitely responded there. And now it's we have very, very good complementary role players around them. Can we add some more? Can we enhance the group? That's our job, is to get the team better. And to answer BT's question, you always have to have an open mind about how you get the group better. And we're fortunate, I'll sit and spend a lot of time with T. Lou and his staff, with what we call our back office crew, with our scouts, and we're gonna have to be better, and we're gonna have to identify, really, really good players on the margins, guys that will play. I hate to use the word minimum, because in relative terms it's a lot of money. We'll look at any opportunities in the draft, any opportunities via trade.
Ellis, so it's fair to say that you and Steve do want the core back, the stars, Kawhi's obviously coming back with James and Paul too.
Yeah, that's our intent. We want to retain those guys. We're hopeful we can, but also understand and respect the fact that they're free agents. Paul has a decision with his option. James will be an unrestricted free agent. So our intent is to bring them back, but also realize that they're elite players and they'll have choices.
There's a lot of talk about Paul potentially getting the max from other teams. Is there a limit for you guys as far as how far you guys would go as far as paying him?
Yeah, I obviously wouldn't discuss that now. I think we want Paul. We value Paul. Paul's done some tremendous things here. He's an elite player, and our biggest thing is we always want to be able to treat players well and pay them fairly, and we also have to build out a team, especially this is a new CBA, but in terms of the exact money, I would never go into details, other than we've had really, really good conversations over the course of the year, and hopeful that we can get him to remain a Clipper.
Oh, there were reports that Kawhi took less than the maximum extension that you guys got with him. Paul expressed optimism throughout the year multiple times that the deal would get done. Why hadn't it got done for the season ended?
Yeah, I think the thing is, look, every deal has to work for both sides, and I think we got to a point where we just said, you know what, we can continue the conversations, but let's just table it until the end of the year. So I anticipate that we'll pick up conversations. Everything's been on a very, I'd say, cooperative and collaborative measure, and he has, he can sign his extension up till July 1, and then he can also test free agency, and we're hopeful that we can still bring him back.
When you say table it to the end of the year, you mean the end of the league year or end of the season?
End of the season. Yeah, I think, basically once we call it past All-Star break, it was, what, I just want to focus on the rest of the season, try to help the Clippers win a championship, and then we can resume conversations when the season's over.
Lawrence, where do things stand with Kawhi's health right now and going forward?
Yeah, look, if we had a game today, Kawhi would not be able to play. He'd be out. We're still dealing with the inflammation. As I said the prior 2 times, the encouraging thing is this seems big picture minor in nature, in that it's not a structural thing. I think the reality is that, we're going to continue to try to learn and how to manage his right knee. He's had 2 surgeries on his knee, but he's shown that he can be durable. The unfortunate, just call it, unlucky, is here's a guy who played 68 games during that stretch where we went 26-5. He showed that he's that guy still. He's one of the top players in his league. He's a great player. He's a ceiling raiser. And as you guys know, the reason why great players are so hard to get in this league, they have an overweighted ability to impact the game. That's what makes them great. That's Kawhi. It was just unlucky that he got hurt at this time. So we'll continue to learn in terms of different ways we can do it. We still want to honor and respect the regular season, but also we want to try to increase our odds, not just for Kawhi, but for all our players to be at their best in April, May, and June. Our jobs are to get 16 wins. We got 2. We have a long ways to go. But we also know that as much as we fell short, we do have great hope that things can turn the other way, because we had evidence of it, but we need to get better. We're not just going to rely on a 2.5 month run as enough evidence. Like, we know we have to get the team better.
With respect to how good Kawhi is when he's healthy, it's 4 straight years though that he hasn't been able to finish the season healthy. At what point is it maybe it's not just luck, it's just something that beyond that?
Yeah, I don't say like luck, unluck. I think you just have to deal kind of with the specifics, right? So he tore his ACL. All right, well, that's that's a year. Typically, it takes guys 18 months to get back and 2 years to be at the high level. Then he tore his meniscus. Same knee. So there's other players who also have injuries and multiple surgeries, and it's just trying to figure out, okay, how can we manage it? I don't think any of us are naive or try to hide in what's not reality. Is that the reality is he's had 2 surgeries on his knee and he has inflammation now. Okay, well, other players deal with that too. They're still high-level, productive players. We have an unbelievable medical group, and I think we'll do our best to figure out kind of what's that right mix. Because let's be real, last year, he was kind of put on blast of like as the poster child for player participation, him and Paul. Well, as we said, and as he's always said, when I'm healthy, I play. Well, he did. He played, and until he was hurt. So, organization, we have to look, okay, how can we manage this the best to increase our odds and probability? And look, there are no guarantees. Like, I can't promise you something that we can't deliver. And just like, in Milwaukee, Giannis and Dame were hurt. In Miami, Jimmy was hurt. In New Orleans, Zion was hurt. Like, it's part of the game. And we're not going to make any excuses for it. We're not going to play the victim. Like, it is what it is. But I do empathize, and I do feel the frustration and the disappointment and the anger. Like, guess what? We all feel it. Like, without a doubt, because we invest so much. And, even for you guys who follow us every day, like, look, it means something. I know you have to be objective and you have to report on what the team is, but I think innately you'd love to be able to follow a team that is able to do something special, and I know our fans do. So again, I get the skepticism, and I'm not here to sell, overpromise something that we can't deliver or sell hype. I'm more dealing with what our reality is, and I think sometimes when things repeatedly happen, it's like, are you not seeing it? And what I'm saying is, no, we see it, but I also see the other side of it too. And just because guys dealt with injuries or they're in their mid-30s, like sometimes there's some fans I talk to like, oh, like things just fall off a cliff. Like, there's not a lot of evidence of that. Like our guys played at like Paul and Kahai, James, like they played at a pretty high level this year. Like, I fully expect them to be able for the next, couple years to maintain a high level. And look, we watch all the games. I see the young stars that are rising, and we're not in denial about it, but I still think this group, we're going to ask them to be better too. You don't stop being better, and to be able to do our jobs and continue to look to surround them with the best complementary players that give us the best chance to win.
Branching off of that, what are some of the top things that you guys are prioritizing ahead of the Intuit Dome opening?
In regards to
just, like you were talking about the fans, some of the frustrations, you've got this, brand new arena opening, and, it's like, I'm not asking you to sell it to me, but what is your message to fans? Like, hey, get ready for this new arena. This is what we're trying to put together. Yeah,
I think, going back to it is that Kawhi's one of the top 5 players in this league when healthy. PG, again, another elite player. James has shown that he's one of the elite orchestrators in the league. The team won 51 games. Team won the division. And we're not running away that we fell short in the postseason, that we had a major injury. Like, that did happen. But that doesn't mean it's going to happen next year. Plus, Intuit Dome literally is going to be one of one in the world. It's going to be an experience for fans. It's that they've never ever seen, that our players have never had. It's going to be a showcase arena around the world. Steve, in so many different ways, has shown why he's the best chairman in sport, and this literally will be the showpiece for how much he gives our fans, our players, and the excitement to have our own home. And guess what? Those noon games, those 12:30 games, yeah, so none of that, and it's going to be an unbelievable venue. So I think there's great excitement, and yet, again, I'm not naive to, I went around yesterday and get my coffee and talk to different people, and I always wear Clipper stuff every day with great pride, and the guy takes some shit yesterday, and I get it, I accept it. You have to own it. We don't run away from it, but also we do have great hope that we're gonna be able to hopefully retain Paul and James, along with Kahai, along with some of our other really, really good role players, add a couple pieces that can make a big difference. And we'll get back at it again next year and give ourselves a chance to try to compete for something that we've never done before.
Well, Lawrence, where do you think Stan with?
That was like in harmony.
I know, I love it.
Russ put a statement out just after the season addressing his role this season, his thoughts on the season, and also just some of the reporting about how that may have gone down. Just what can you say about your experience with him this season, especially as it pertained to his role decreasing?
Yeah, I think you got to give Russ a ton of credit. You look at a guy who's a first ballot Hall of Famer, who's one of the most unique players that have played this game. The fact that he's our most athletic player at 35 is incredible. The fact that he was willing to come off the bench, he impacted a lot of games and a lot of wins. And his energy, his competitiveness, his fierceness, his downhill ability. He had unbelievable stretches of individual defense. So you got to give Russ a lot of credit for sacrifice and doing what he did. There's a reason why he's one of our fans' most favorite players, and wherever he's been, he's always been a fan favorite. Guys in the locker room love Russ, so got a lot of respect for Russ, what he's done for his career, what he's done for the Clippers. He's one of the game's true great players.
He has a player option. Is the hope on your guys' end that whether through him opting in or a new deal that he is back with you guys next year?
Yeah, I think, look, the way it works with the player options is typically you sit down, I'll sit down with Russ, T. Lou will sit down with Russ, talk with his representative, Jeff Schwartz, and you kind of outline what the role is going forward. It's very similar to when Russ came last summer. Like, we explained to him exactly what the role is, what it could be, the different guys we're looking at, and then Russ has a decision to make. And so we'll kind of go through the process. So I'm not going to speak for any player in terms of what they're thinking, but that's our process.
Lawrence, where do you think?
You had mentioned the complementary players. Terrence and Zoo had pretty solid series against Dallas. Terrence, I believe, also Zoo as well, are both extension eligible this summer. Are they two guys that you do see fitting in well around the Stars, and guys that you would like to possibly extend if given the chance?
Yeah, I think taking it one at a time. Zoo had a career year. I think James had a lot to do with unlocking it. Zoo, I think, led the league in shooting percentage between 6 and 8 feet. Develop a great floater with either hand. I think he was second in the league in points produced out of post-ups behind Porzingis. He's 27. He continues to work. He loves to play every single night and hates, when he got injured, it just kills him not to play in a game. He's our longest tenured Clipper. So we'll have conversations with Jeff and Mike Lindemann, his agents at Excel, and an extension makes sense. Yeah, we love Zoo and love to keep Zoo here. Terrence, again, very much a fabric of the team. Got off to a slow start to the season, which we got to do some hypnotism, something with him, but he always gets off to a great close and great finish. So after struggling shooting the ball, a lot of it, Terrence was dealing with a high ankle sprain early in the year. So again, he's a no excuse guy. So I think it impacted his shooting, but then post All-Star break, well, basically once January 1 hit, he shot it at a very high level. Really proud of how he competed against one of the game's great players in Luka, and thought defensively he tried to make things as hard as possible for an MVP candidate. You love the fact that Terrence is, he's a competitor, and so very much see Terrence as part of the fabric of the group. Love both guys.
Lawrence, where do you think Stan with Ty Lue and a possible extension for him?
Yeah, I think Ty had a terrific year, and I know when you fall short and you lose in the first round, everyone can kind of focus on the outcome, but we really focus on the day-to-day. I think Ty had a terrific year. Our hope is Ty's the coach of LA Clippers for a long time. He's an unbelievable partner. I love him as a person and as a coach. I think he's one of the elite coaches in today's game. We've talked about it before. He has a great way of connecting while still holding guys accountable. He's a truth teller without leaving scars and wounds. He's an unbelievable strategist who makes terrific in-game adjustments, and he has a growth mindset that he's always looking to get better. So our hope is that Ty's here for a long time, and we love Ty.
Even before Kawhi got hurt, as you said, the peak was 26-5, and then it went to like a 500 team after that. You guys started showing signs, for whatever reason, that 26-5 mentality started waning. What do you think went wrong, or what happened?
Yeah, I think it's never one thing. I mean, top of mind, things are going on. I think we had Zoo's injury, I think, obviously had an impact. Other guys getting banged up, other guys in and out of lineup. Those are excuses, but there's a fine line between excuses and reasons. But ultimately, our defense, I think you look at it, our transition defense, our defensive rebounding was really, really poor during that stretch. I mean, over the course of the season, I think we finished, depending on what metrics you lean into, 4th best offensively and 17th best defensively. And I think those, defense so much is about effort, energy, being connected. And I think we just went through a lull. Sometimes, we knew going into the season that month of March with 17 games was going to be a tough one, and it proved to be. But we have to look at all reasons for it. I mean, the benchmarks that all teams use to be a legit champion is you want to be a top 10 offense, top 10 defense, top 5 hopefully in one of them. Well, we checked one box, we didn't check the other. So, and with any time, whether it's on either side of the ball, you first look at personnel, from a front office standpoint, and then from coaches you look at different schemes. But ultimately, I think it comes down to the effort and energy you put into the game. And I thought during that stretch, I think we hit a lull, and we just didn't bring it as much as we needed to, and we had some injuries that probably impacted it. But I think it was more mindset and approach more than anything.
Lawrence, you talked about just the level of competition being as high as it was throughout the entire season, something that you outlined a year ago, so you outlined going into the year. How do you balance that going into next year with the fact that you got guys who are veterans, you got a spirit where, middle of the season, you had guys who needed to be sent home and refreshed and come back and remember that they're a part of the team? Like, how do you maintain the culture that you want going into next season?
Yeah, I think to me is the best thing is just to deal with honestly. You address the areas where me has to be better, and down the line. I mean, I use the expression, look in the mirror before you look out the window. And so it's easy to point fingers. It's easy to say what's wrong with everyone else and everything else, but you have to look in the mirror and honestly look. Like, to me, is like I said, as our roster fell short, we didn't have enough. Now going into the season, part of it was design. Last year, as we had a lot of guys that basically, and it's like that was an issue because you had too many guys. This year, maybe we fell short, and some of it was a byproduct of the trade, but some of it was just inability to be able to get some things done at different times prior to the deadline that didn't manifest itself. In regards to things that happened over the course of the year, I think all those experiences, because the way that T. Lou and the organization deals with it is one of honesty and just, what's where we're at. And you're always going to have different things that happen over the course of the year. There is no perfect environment. I remember when I got into coaching, and you'll know this name, but Lou Lamorello, who now he runs the Islanders, but ran the Devils, and when I was at the Nets, and he brought me in, he goes, look, every team has the same problems. It's just how they're handled. And whether you're the Denver Nuggets, the champs, or a team that's, in a rebuilding mode, like, they're the same issues. It's who's causing them and how they're being handled. And so I think you're constantly reflective of, okay, how can we do a better job in these situations? And you also push your players and staff to also look inward as well. But like I said, by and large, I thought it was a very good group. Was it a perfect group? Of course it wasn't a perfect group, but it's never perfect.
Look around the league, some of the other teams are still in the playoffs. Assuming you're bringing most of this team back, do you feel like you guys are good enough? Are there things that need to be done before you reach some of the Denver's and Minnesota level? Yeah,
I think we have to get the team better. I also think I got great respect for those teams that are still playing. And I think what you want to look at when you're trying to be legitimate and say, hey, we're trying to build a championship contender, you're looking at, do you have a chance? Now, for some teams, more things have to go right than others. There's going to be a team, whoever it is, that will be the favorite going into the year. I think, as you would agree, there's so much parity in the NBA that if you were to tier the teams, like, the tiers keep getting bigger and bigger. Like, if like this year, to me, and you guys can disagree, like, I thought we were a top 6 team in the league. Now, next year, that's the same thing. Will we be a top 6 team in the league? Now, those tiers keep, like I said, they keep getting bigger, and it's like, an injury here, injury there. You just want to give yourself a chance. You know, you'd love to be in a position where, hey, you go in there and you're the 73-win Golden State Warriors, where like you would, like, everyone knew. I think the beauty of it, if you're a fan of the NBA, is like you can make an argument for several teams that have a chance. Like, who's going to win these series? I mean, there's a lot of pick'ems. I mean, it's tough to figure out who it is, but that also is what gives the group a chance. And you know, we understand that there's windows in the NBA, and you try to maximize the window, and that's what we've done each and every year with this group. Sometimes we've made good decisions, sometimes we've made bad decisions, but it's always with the intent of maximizing the window. We are still big believers that the window is still open. We're not naive. Like, we understand, you know, age curve, and we study it. We study the progression of our players, and that's why we do have belief that this group still has a runway. But also acknowledge the fact that we can understand the skepticism with it, and there are no guarantees either way, but we are hopeful that we will be able to put together a more complementary roster going into next season.
Lawrence, obviously you mentioned it at the beginning, PG 74 games, James 72, Kawhi 68. Even with that, you guys finished at the 4th seed, and I know historically just 4 seeds typically don't win championships. How, you talk about improvement to the roster, but with those guys in particular, do you think that there's a level of improvement that they can make? I know you kind of mentioned it a little bit ago, that can take you guys to a top 3, top 2, 1st seed, because obviously, like I said, those are the teams that typically do win it all.
Yeah, without a doubt. The best players, they always add something to their game. Now, as you become in your mid-30s, which isn't ancient, but as you age, sometimes it's doing something different than what you've ever done before. And many times, it's not a statable thing. It may be something for the team. It could be, and they're minor things that are big things. Because look, if your best players get better, just invariably, they just have an overweighted impact on the game. So, like, Kawhi each and every year has gotten better in different things. Like, when we first got Kawhi, one of the big emphasis was off the dribble threes and what he did. You know, PG just set the franchise record for threes and trying to get more up. You know, for James, which is new, like, there was an adjustment. And now that T. Lue has this group, we will challenge those 3 guys very specifically in areas we think that they can get better. And then that's part of their development plan. So I definitely think those guys, as our ceiling raisers, can definitely get better, and it may be different. And it like I said, it could be in areas that have to do, you know, on the offensive end of more movement off the ball. Look, we have 3 of the best isolation players in the league, okay? And I think 2 of them finished maybe top 3 in the league. It's that balance between playing to the strengths and also making sure we don't get too slow and stagnant and find it. Well, that's a challenge on the players to how can we do that? There's also defensive challenges. So I definitely think those guys can get better. And if you truly want to do something that's exceptionally hard, it takes exceptional sacrifice. It takes exceptional investment. Like, winning a championship, so many things have to go right for whoever is the champion, but also takes great investment. And when your best players do it, and these guys, they're good people, they work really hard, and in their heart, I really know they want to do something special for the city. And if everyone's willing to make the investment, it always starts at the top.
Lawrence, you have a lot of young players on the team, speaking of development. So when you look at, you have the 46th pick in this draft as of right now. You have a few guys who didn't get as many opportunities, but they played in G League or they were with the team on the road. Like, what can you do to speak of what those guys need to do to contribute next year, and how are you looking at adding with a mid-second round pick?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, you know, adding youthful players, I think helps. It helps with the energy of the group. It helps with the dog days. And also for sustainability, like, you need young players to be able to ascend. So Jordan, Kobe, you know, Moose is on the end of a 2-way. We'll have a decision to make with him. We signed Kahai at the end of the year. That we're hopeful that these guys have great summers. That their goal is, you want to put pressure on the coaching staff to get in the rotation. And we'll have, I think, both Kobe and Jordan have shown really good signs of being to help, because look, the hardest thing in team building, at least in our opinion, is to get elite players. We feel we have 3 of them. Guys like Kobe who can pass, dribble, shoot, guard multiple positions. And if he can continue to raise his level, they just fit with other guys. It's kind of like Amir and Terrence. Like, you plug them into situations, they don't take away from them. They're not taking extra possessions away. They're being more efficient. They can hold their own defensively. They'll keep the ball moving. So, like, there's opportunities for them. Same thing with Jordan. Is Jordan, like, his improvement arc from the time he came in Summer League to how he finished the G League season was really, really impressive. And so we're hoping he can build on that. You know, with Kai is the way that we looked at the roster building, especially because, you know, we don't have an embarrassment of riches, so to speak, in draft picks. We got to take some swings on young players. Maybe right, maybe wrong. But we developed that kind of third line of players, not just our two-ways, for swings on young guys. Some fallen angels, guys that may have been lottery picks that showed in their NBA minutes can do it. Kai, for us, we're not obviously a very athletic team. He gives us some big-time athleticism, and also to see, okay, if we put him in a little bit tighter box, and, you know, specifically with James, he has shown great ability of playing with, you know, vertical rim rolling floor spacers, that he can make the game really easy for him. And so with Kai, similar to what we did with Primo, like, there's a development plan first off the court that supersedes anything on the court, and we'll see. And then with the 46th pick, you know, I think this draft has a very, very healthy middle class. You know, when big picture people talk about this draft, and those who are, you know, saying, I don't think it's a great draft, I think they're looking very much on the surface that they may not see a generational talent like we saw that came out in this past year's draft. But I do think there's a lot of good players, and there's an old adage that there's no such thing as a bad draft. You just got to pick the right player, and we got to find the right player. And that's the challenge for our entire back office group and scouts, to be able to find young guys that can be contributors and be here for a significant time, best case scenario.
Lawrence, throughout the season, a couple times throughout the season, a lot was made of the identity of the team. At times, a couple players would say that there was no identity. As a former coach and someone who built this roster of players together, was it at all concerning for you during the season when you did hear player or players say that there was no identity in the team? And how do you rectify that going forward?
Yeah, I think sometimes what happens is, when whoever speaks after a game, sometimes things are said that when you think about it and you go dig deeper is, well, obviously there was a very strong identity when you went 26-5. You know, that's like no small task. And again, we're not going to hang a banner over 26-5, but like, we defended at a really, really high level. We were generating the types of shots we wanted to generate. I think everyone says, look, we want to be a defense-first team that plays their strengths offensively. You'd like to be able to, you know, Ty will always talk about getting into the paint and getting downhill and creating open shots. But like, to me, it really didn't cause much of anything. And T. Lou's response right before we went on a run, like we haven't today. Right now, we weren't playing very hard. T. Lou, dressed like we played on the softer side of things. So, but I do think, look, we have a veteran guys. We know what wins. We know what works. This isn't taking a bunch of rookies and educating them on the NBA. All these guys have had different varying degrees of team success. They've all been part of elite defenses. They've all been a part of elite offenses. They know champions, you have to be top 10 in both. It's the commitment to it. Now, Ty talked a lot to the group about sacrifice, then he kind of changed it to investment, is the identity that you want personally may not be what's best for the team. It's what's best for the team's identity. And everyone buying in and embracing that. And that takes time too. And that's kind of what gives me hope with the group, is that I do think more time together and learning each other and making more sacrifices, not less, and buying into the identity that T-Lou wants, and something that's proven. Like if you're gonna play the game of what works over the course of the year to give yourself the best chance to win a championship, we have 100% faith, not just in T-Lou, but in our players. Like, get it, but I don't overreact to a soundbite after a game, or to a tweet, or to an X, or to a Snapchat, or an Instagram, or Instacart, or whatever is going on. There's a lot going on.
Thanks, Al.
I appreciate you guys' time. I appreciate you guys throughout the year.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good one.
So.
Let's get ready for Hoop Jab.